She's pregnant,
How could you
Ethan.
do this to me?
Yet she shows up here like some cheap actress. Laughter erupts in the glittering banquet hall, pierced by the flash of cameras.
Look at her,
A
she's
champagne
completely
glass shatters.
frozen.
Sienna, Ethan's mistress, lunges forward, slapping Grace across the face. A sharp, crisp slap echoes through the hundreds of guests live streaming the scene. Ethan laughs heartily, while Grace stands frozen, hands cradling her belly, a faint stain of blood spreading across her red dress. Then, the roar of a helicopter tears through the air. Everyone looks up. The hall's doors burst open. A silver-haired man in a black suit strides in, his voice low and icy. "Enough! Who dares touch my daughter?" No one expected it. The trembling girl is the only daughter of billionaire Whitmore. The white light of hundreds of cameras floods the Plaza Hotel's banquet hall. The Hearts for Humanity charity gala sparkles like a gilded dream until it turns into a nightmare broadcast live to the world. Grace Vale stands at the edge of the room, her hand resting lightly on her belly, the red velvet dress hugging her 7-month pregnant frame. She offers a faint smile, the polite mask of someone trained to hide every crack beneath layers of mascara. Across the hall, Ethan, her husband, laughs with Sienna Brooks, the woman the entire city knows as his new PR partner. Phone cameras pan across, whispers rising. Is that really her? That dress. What is she trying to prove? Grace keeps walking. Each step echoes softly on the marble floor, as if she's treading the fragile line between dignity and devastation. When she stops before them, Ethan avoids her eyes. He merely raises his champagne glass, a smug smile on his lips. "Grace, you didn't have to do this." His voice is even cold, the tone of a man accustomed to control. "Do what, Ethan? Attend the fundraiser for my husband's own company." Her question is soft as a breath, but her eyes are sharp as a blade. Before he can respond, Sienna steps forward. Tall, blonde hair pulled high, red lips curled in defiance. He's right. You shouldn't be here. This is an event for people who know how to keep their dignity, not for dragging family drama onto a stage. Before her words settle, Sienna raises her hand. A sudden, precise slap rings out, stark and dry. The sound silences the entire hall. A champagne glass falls, shattering, and blood seeps faintly across Grace's pale cheek. Ethan laughs. A real, deep, delighted laugh. She always knows how to make people pity her, doesn't she? Scattered laughter follows guests too timid to face their own cruelty. What no one notices, on Grace's wrist, a small smart bracelet is recording everything, her heartbeat, the sounds, every word, every drop of blood. She says nothing. No tears, no screams, no resistance. She only touches her cheek, the burning sensation mingling with the metallic taste at the corner of her mouth. Then she turns away. A flustered waitress rushes forward, but Grace gently raises a hand to stop her. "It's fine," she whispers, and steps out onto the balcony. The New York night wind is cold and dry. Below, hundreds dance to jazz melodies. Above, she stands alone, gazing down at the crowd, wondering if this is the moment everything truly ends. Inside, Sienna continues live streaming, her voice shrill and triumphant. "See, folks? Powerful yet fragile women always love playing the victim." View counts climb by the keyboard. System. Video. 177.1. Translated script. The second. And then a deep, heavy sound rips through the air. The whir of helicopter blades. Heads turn. Glasses shatter. The glass doors tremble. A black helicopter lands in the plaza outside the hotel. Dust and wind sweep through, fluttering white silk and gowns. A silver-haired man steps out, tall, his eyes cold as steel. Beside him are 2 bodyguards and a man in a suit carrying a leather briefcase. As he enters the hall, the crowd parts like a sea divided. His gaze sweeps the room, locking onto Grace's blood-streaked face. She trembles, her lips whispering, "Dad." The room freezes. Ethan pales. Sienna swallows hard. The man's voice cuts through, low, not shouting, yet silencing everything. "Enough." A single word, sharp as a blade. He turns to Ethan. "I gave you a chance to be a decent man. You chose otherwise. From this moment, everything you have, your company, your shares, your homes, belongs to the daughter you just humiliated. No one dares breathe." Reporters pivot, camera flashes blazing like lightning. Ethan stammers, "Mr. Whitmore, But the man raises a hand, his voice steady and final as a verdict. You forgot one thing, Ethan. In this country, a woman's honor is not a bargaining chip. Grace stands there, no longer trembling. Her hand rests on her belly, her eyes alight with something new, not fear, but awakening. Behind them, the live stream continues. Millions watch. A live icon pulses red on the screen. Sienna tries to stop her phone, her hands shaking. No one knows this video will become the first piece of evidence in a chain of events that will shake New York City. That night, the plaza is no longer a place of light. It becomes the scene of justice. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Before the plaza, before the laughter and the slap, there was a warm morning in San Francisco. A soft spring rain fell like silk against the cafe's glass windows, where Grace, a freshly graduated law student, sat hunched over a draft for a charity project. A young man with gray eyes approached, asking to borrow the chair across from her. Ethan Vale, founder of a budding media startup. He had a gentle smile and a way of speaking that made the world feel like it shrank to just the two of them. Back then, Grace believed in that gaze. He spoke of dreams to build a platform connecting young people globally. She shared her hopes of advancing social justice. Two worlds, seemingly distant, collided in a shared vision for a brighter future. They fell in love as if time didn't exist. Night after night, Ethan drove Grace across the Golden Gate Bridge, the wind tossing her hair. He said, "I want you by my side when I succeed, Grace," and she believed him. 3 years later, their wedding took place in Napa Valley's sun-drenched vineyards. Grace wore white, and her father, Charles Whitmore, shook Ethan's hand, his gaze calm but carrying a quiet weight. "Take care of my daughter," he said, just once. Ethan nodded. No one foresaw that promise would become a lifelong scar. Their early married life was a soft melody. Ethan's media company, Vale Media, soared, his face gracing Forbes with the tagline, "The Visionary CEO." Grace stepped back from legal work, devoting time to family and charity projects. But power changes people, and sometimes it strangles those who love too deeply. Ethan started coming home late, then grew distant. He said she didn't understand his pressures. She kept trying, believing their love was merely tired. Then, one autumn evening in their Manhattan penthouse, Grace found a photo. A woman blonde, in a black dress, red lips posed with Ethan in a boardroom. Scrawled on it, "For us, E." Her heart sank to the depths. When Ethan walked in, she hid the photo not out of fear, but because she couldn't bear to hear the lie. From that day, she lived like a shadow. Each morning, she rose early, made coffee, smiled as if betrayal were a stranger. She learned to stay silent, to make everything seem fine. In high society, pain isn't discussed, it's wrapped in roses and champagne. Ethan grew stranger still. He began saying things like, "You're too sensitive, Grace. I can't stand this control." And she believed the fault was hers. Then she became pregnant. The moment the test showed 2 lines, she wept, not knowing if it was hope or despair. She thought the child might mend something between them. But Ethan glanced at the result, gave a faint smile. "Good. I'll have an heir." From that day, their home turned as cold as a boardroom. Some nights, she stood on the balcony, staring at New York's lights. Below, millions loved and laughed. She heard only her heart pounding in the silence. Once, she called her father. Charles heard her say, "I'm fine," but he knew it was a lie. His voice deepened. "You don't need to prove anything to this world, Grace. If someone hurts you, say the word. I'll handle the rest." But she replied, "I want to stand on my own, Dad. I don't want to be sheltered forever." So she stayed silent, trying one more time. When Ethan was invited to the plaza to receive the Humanitarian of the Year award, he suggested she join him. Grace looked at the red dress in the closet, knowing the gala wasn't about glory, it was their final stage. But she wore it, like a farewell. In the mirror, her face was still beautiful, still refined, but her eyes had lost their trusting light. She touched her belly, whispering to her child, "We'll endure this one last time. Then everything will change." No one knew the night at the plaza would be both an end and a beginning, because when she stepped through those hotel doors, every lie would burn in the light. New York's dawn creeps through the curtains, gilding the luxurious penthouse. Grace sits on the sofa, cradling a cold cup of tea. The room is silent, save for the faint pulse of her baby's heartbeat through the monitor. She's been awake all night, not from insomnia, but because she no longer wants to dream. On the table, the Hearts for Humanity gala invitation lies beside the morning news. Ethan Vale, Humanitarian of the Year. Below the headline is, "The smile of the man who once vowed to love her forever." The bedroom door opens. Ethan emerges in a tailored suit, expensive cologne lingering. He doesn't look at his wife. "You don't need to come tonight," he says, tying his tie, his tone as casual as discussing business. Grace sits still. Why not? Because no one wants to see a woman crying at a charity gala. He pours an espresso, sips, and smirks. "I'm just sparing you trouble. The press will dissect every detail. And you know, people don't pity. They judge." His words land like an invisible blade. Grace slowly turns to him. Something in her eyes has shifted a cold light, no longer trembling. "Are you afraid I'll embarrass you?" she asks. Ethan doesn't answer. He glances at her belly. "You're turning everything into a tragedy, Grace. Stop it." Tragedy. The word slices her breath in two. Grace sets down her tea, stands. "Have you ever wondered what makes a woman a tragedy?" Ethan laughs, not bothering to look. "Because they love to act. Because they don't know when to quit." In that moment, memories flood back. That first rainy morning, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Napa vow, the baby's heartbeat in the cold night, all dissolving in the laugh of the man before her. She steps closer, just a few feet away. "I thought if I stayed quiet long enough, things would settle. But silence only makes people think you consent." Ethan looks at her, his mouth twitching into a half-smile. "You won't dare show up tonight. You can't handle those lights." Grace smiles faintly, a calmness she didn't expect. "You're wrong, Ethan. I'm going, but not for you." She turns, heading to the bedroom. Her voice is soft but clear. "I'm going to see what karma sounds like under those lights." The door closes, leaving Ethan alone in the gleaming, glass-caged room. He thinks he's won. He doesn't know the woman he just dismissed has crossed a line from which there's no return. That afternoon, Grace sits before the mirror, her brown hair loose, her delicate face reflected in the golden light. On the table are the earrings her mother left her, the only thing she brought when she left the Whitmore home for Ethan. She puts them on, feeling like she's closing a chapter of her life. The red dress hangs in the closet, waiting. She touches the cool fabric, closes her eyes, and breathes deeply. From her phone's speaker, the old song they danced to at their wedding plays softly. "We danced beneath the stars we thought would never fade." She smiles, a sad but awakened smile. "No one can take my light," she whispers, as if to herself. Outside, New York sinks into sunset. Car lights stretch along the avenue, the sky blazing red like a storm's warning. Grace opens the window, the breeze tossing the curtains, scattering newspapers on the table. One page lands open. "Family, the Foundation of Strength." She stares at it, then tears it in half. When her phone rings, the screen reads, "Dad." She hesitates, then presses decline. Not because she doesn't need him, because tonight she must face her truth alone. She applies light makeup, fastens the dress's final clasp, and stands before the mirror. No longer the wounded woman, no longer the girl needing rescue. In the mirror, she's a mother-to-be and a woman about to rebirth herself. At 8 p.m., a black limousine pulls up to the Plaza Hotel. Camera flashes flare as Grace steps out. The doors open, and the clamor of cameras, whispers, and gasps merges into a roaring wave. Ethan spots her from afar, his eyes flickering with surprise, then curling back into his smug grin as if the game has reached its final round. But Grace walks slowly through the crowd, each step a heartbeat of the child within her. On her wrist, the smart bracelet glows its red light, signaling its recording. No one knows it's about to become the most loyal witness to this fateful night. The piano's melody fills the plaza's hall, elegant and proud. The room glimmers with golden light, champagne glasses sparkling, evening gowns flowing like velvet waves. Everything is perfect until Grace Vale steps in. The light reflects off her red dress, so radiant it demands attention. But behind the glamour, her eyes hold a calm that's almost terrifying. Ethan sees her from a distance. His smile falters briefly, then resumes its familiar arrogance. He drapes an arm around Sienna, raising his glass, speaking louder than necessary. "Didn't expect you to show. I thought you'd be busy, playing the victim at home." Sienna giggles, her laugh high and hollow. She looks fine, though, a bit aged before her time. The crowd around them chuckles. Phone cameras turn their way. Grace stands still, her eyes meeting Sienna's, saying nothing. She only touches her belly, a small gesture, but enough to remind everyone she's pregnant. Ethan raises an eyebrow. "Stop acting, Grace. You're exhausting me." For a moment, her face remains serene. But then a soft click. Sienna opens her phone, starting a live stream. "Dear viewers, we have an unexpected guest. Mrs. Vale is here to steal the spotlight." The phone's light bathes Grace's face, pale and stark. Comments flood the screen. She remains silent. Then crack! A sharp sound tears through the air. Sienna slaps her. The slap shatters the silence, freezing the hall. A champagne glass shatters, the music halting abruptly. Blood seeps from the corner of Grace's mouth. Ethan laughs, a true, ringing, cruel laugh. "She needs to learn to shut up. Right, darling?" Sienna's laugh echoes back, resonating among the hundreds standing silent. Phone cameras zoom in on Grace's face. She doesn't cry. She stands there, blood trickling, her eyes no longer fearful but still as a lake before a storm. On her wrist, the smart bracelet's red light glows, capturing everything. Her heartbeat races, then slows, as if her body is bracing for an earthquake. And at that moment, the roar of helicopter blades rips through the space. The glass doors tremble, curtains flutter, dust swirls in. Everyone turns. A black helicopter lands in the plaza's square. Headlights sweep the hall. Dust and light merge. The doors open. A man steps out tall, silver-haired, in a black suit like the night itself. Charles Whitmore. No one grasps what's happening as he strides in, his shoes striking a steady rhythm on the marble. Two bodyguards follow, one with a briefcase, the other with a stack of documents. Ethan pales. "Mr. Whitmore, why are you—" Charles doesn't answer. He walks straight to Grace, gently touching her bloodied cheek. The gesture is so tender it makes the room shudder. Then he turns, his eyes locking onto Ethan. "You slapped my daughter?" Ethan stumbles over words. "No, not me. It was Sienna." Charles nods slightly. "Good, because if it was you, I'm not sure you'd still be standing." Sienna trembles, stepping back. She fumbles to stop the live stream, but it's too late. The video has spread, watched by hundreds of thousands in real time. Charles gestures. One bodyguard sets the briefcase on a table, snapping it open. Inside are thick folders, sealed envelopes, and a USB drive. His voice is even. "I taught Ethan Vale that honor is a man's only true asset. Tonight, you traded it for cheap fame." He turns to Grace. "You don't need to speak, dear. Let me speak for you." The room falls silent. Charles opens the briefcase, placing a document on the podium. This is the transfer of Vale Media's shares. As of now, Ethan Vale's assets are frozen for investigation, and the company will be handed to a trust represented by Grace Vale. A murmur erupts. Reporters' cameras flare. Ethan steps forward, face ashen. "You can't do this. I'm the CEO. Charles looks at him, eyes cold as steel. "You were. Tonight, you're a living lesson in what money can't buy. Respect." Scattered applause rises, tentative at first, then growing stronger. No one dares laugh, but everyone understands. Justice has landed at the plaza. No courtroom needed. Grace stands still, eyes wet but tearless. She nods faintly at her father. In the camera flashes, the image of father and daughter emerges, a powerful man, a woman reborn. Ethan collapses into a chair, hands clenched, face buried in shadow. Sienna slips out the back, her phone still glowing, the live stream still running. And in the screen's top corner, millions type, "Justice doesn't need noise. It's silent, precise, and ruthless." The morning after the plaza, New York still gleams with sunlight. But for Grace, Everything is veiled in a faint haze. She wakes in the Whitmore estate's vast bedroom, the Hudson River's waves echoing through the window. Outside, the media waits. Since the incident, Grace Vale floods headlines. The woman betrayed at the charity gala, Whitmore's princess and the slap of the century. She doesn't read the papers, doesn't open social media. She sits by the window on a wooden chair, hand on her belly where a small life pulses steadily. In that silence, she hears herself whisper, "We're still here, still breathing, still alive." The first morning at her father's home feels foreign. The white, pristine mansion is luxurious, orderly, and cold. Abstract paintings line the walls, costly but empty. Grace once dreamed of returning here when everything fell apart, but now that it's real, she realizes no place is truly safe until the soul is healed. Charles Whitmore enters, holding a black coffee. "You need rest," he says. "The world forgets quickly, as it always does." Grace shakes her head faintly. "I don't want that, Dad. Not for me, but for the others." He looks at his daughter, pride mingling with worry in his eyes. "Good, but know this. If you step back into the light, you can't return to the shadows." She smiles, her eyes softly bright. "I'm not going back." In the days that follow, Grace vanishes from the media. No statements, no interviews. But in the mansion's basement, she works daily with 2 lawyers and a group of women who've survived emotional abuse. She names her project the Silent Truth Foundation. Its emblem, a black butterfly on a white background rebirthed from darkness. At the first meeting, a young woman asks, "Why Silent Truth, Miss Vale?" Grace answers, her voice soft but firm. "Because silence didn't save me, but I want to turn it into something that can save others." One afternoon, as sunset glows through the window, Grace opens an old wooden box holding the smart bracelet. It still holds the data from that night, the slap, the laughter, her trembling voice. She hesitates, then plays it. The sound returns. Enough. Her father's voice, low, resolute, and her heartbeat pounding like someone reborn. She shuts it off, tears falling. But this time, they're not tears of pain. They're the tears of someone who's crossed the storm. News of Charles Whitmore pulling all funding from Vale Media to support Grace's foundation shocks the public. Ethan loses his title, his home, and faces a slew of financial fraud charges uncovered in a company audit. Sienna vanishes from social media. Grace stays silent, no comments, no retaliation. One morning, a reporter stops her at the gate. "Grace, any words for your ex-husband?" She pauses, looking straight into the lens. "Not ex-husband," she says softly. "The man who taught me that when you lose everything, you discover what you truly have." Then she walks away, her words spread across social media in hours. But this time, they don't call her a victim, they call her a symbol of rebirth. That evening, she returns home, turning on a small lamp in the living room. On the table lies the signed divorce papers. She looks at them, then signs the final line. A soft breath escapes, like shedding an entire lifetime. She steps onto the balcony, gazing at the city, thousands of lights, like stars, reflected in her eyes. In the night breeze, her voice is a quiet prayer. It feels like the laughter has finally stopped, and somewhere, in the small heartbeat within her, she knows. A new chapter begins. No longer Grace Vale, someone's wife, but Grace Whitmore, the woman who'll redefine justice for herself. The next day, she receives a summons from the federal court. Ethan Vale's trial for emotional abuse and financial fraud. Grace looks at the paper, then smiles faintly. She knows this journey isn't over, and this time, she won't hide behind silence. Manhattan Federal Court, December. Cold rain slides down the glass windows. Reporters crowd the steps, lenses flashing like lightning as Grace steps out of the car. She wears a black coat, hand resting lightly on her belly where her child nears birth. Her face is calm, no trace of fear. Behind her, Charles Whitmore walks silently, saying nothing. Thousands watch live. On social media, number Grace Vale trial spreads like wildfire. The nation holds its breath. Inside the courtroom, Ethan sits at the defendant's table. His suit is pristine, but his eyes are hollow, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Sienna sits in the back row, face pale. She once live-streamed to mock Grace. Now, that video is the key evidence. The prosecutor plays it on a large screen. The plaza's blinding light, the laughter, and the slap. The sound rings out, chilling and stark. The room falls deathly silent. Ethan's laugh from the video echoes, making him flinch as if struck. Sienna's voice, "She's pregnant, Ethan." And his reply, "She deserves it, doesn't she?" The sound reverberates in the cold room. Some spectators bow their heads, a few wipe tears. On the witness stand, Grace sheds no tears. The prosecutor turns to her. "Mrs. Vale, can you tell the court how you felt in that moment?" Grace looks up. Her voice is low, steady. "It felt like the world stopped. Then I heard my child's heartbeat, strong. I realized if I stayed silent again, they'd think silence is how to survive." All eyes fix on her. No tears, no drama, just truth raw and pure as a honed blade. She continues, voice even. "Silence is the abuser's favorite language. They make you believe speaking is weak, but the truth is, silence kills you slowly." The room holds its breath. Ethan stares at the floor, hands gripping the chair. The prosecutor steps forward, placing the smart bracelet on the stand. "Next evidence. Your Honor, audio data from Mrs. Vale's personal device, confirming 2 years of emotional abuse." The screen shows a heart rate graph, paired with Ethan's voice. "You're only good at playing pitiful. No one wants to be near a woman like you. I succeeded despite you, not because of you." Each word lands like a dagger, piercing the air. No one breathes. The judge taps the gavel, calling for order. In the gallery, a middle-aged woman sobs. A young girl grips her friend's hand, whispering, "That's exactly me." In that instant, Grace's story ceases to be hers alone. It becomes a mirror for millions who've stayed silent. That afternoon, as arguments close, Ethan's lawyer rises. "Your Honor, the defendant erred in emotion, not in criminal acts." Grace looks at him. "Emotion doesn't kill instantly," she says softly, "but it destroys you day by day. It's a crime that leaves no blood, but scars souls that never heal." Her words make the judge look up, his aged eyes touched with emotion. When the jury returns, the room holds its breath. The foreperson reads aloud, "We, the jury, find the defendant Ethan Vale guilty on all charges." The gavel strikes. The rain outside stops, as if the city exhales. Ethan slumps in his chair. Sienna cries, mascara streaking. Grace closes her eyes, breathing deeply. Not from joy, from relief. Charles rests a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "Justice isn't victory, it's just the start." Grace opens her eyes, looking out the window. Through the gray sky, a silver thread of light pierces the clouds, touching her belly. A small light, but real. Outside the court, the crowd cheers. Reporters thrust microphones, asking, "Grace, any words for the world?" She pauses, looks into the lens, and speaks clearly. "I didn't seek justice for revenge. I sought it so my child can grow up in a world where truth doesn't have to whisper." Then she turns, her small frame blending into the crowd, yet shining like its center. Late winter in New York dusts the city with thin snow. The city glows with Christmas lights, and in a quiet room at Columbia Hospital's top floor, a newborn's cry rings out. Grace lies on the white bed, sweat dampening her brown hair. She looks at the tiny, red-faced baby in the nurse's arms, her voice catching, "It's a boy." Charles Whitmore stands beside her, his aged eyes glinting with rare emotion, pride, and relief. He rests a hand on her shoulder. "Welcome back to the world, both of you." Grace smiles, weary but radiant. She touches the tiny hand, warmth spreading through her. In that moment, she understands justice. Honor, all she's fought for are just tools to protect this life. Weeks later, snow melts, and Grace Whitmore Vale's name fills the news not as a victim, but as the founder of the Silent Truth Foundation. She no longer hides from the lights. She steps into them not to endure, but to illuminate others. At an international conference on justice and gender equality, she takes the stage in a simple white dress. The auditorium rises, applauding as she approaches the podium. Behind her, the screen displays the familiar emblem, a black butterfly on white. She begins, her voice low, warm, and calm. "A year ago, I thought silence kept the peace. I was wrong. Silence doesn't keep peace, it keeps evil comfortable. The room falls silent. Golden light bathes her face, highlighting every delicate, resolute feature. That night at the plaza, I lost everything: honor, love, trust. But I found something no one can steal: the right to speak. I don't share my story for pity. I share it to remind us that justice isn't just a verdict. It's a process, and sometimes, the courage to stand again. Applause rises, then quiets as she raises a hand. We can't change the past, but we can choose to make it a legacy, one that spares others the pain we've endured. So I don't seek revenge. I rebuild. Her voice catches, but her eyes blaze. My son will grow up in a world where women aren't mocked for speaking truth. And I promise, as long as I breathe, I'll protect that world. After the speech, she steps onto the balcony, snow falling like dust. Below, the city shines like a sea of stars. Charles joins her, draping a coat over her shoulders. "You did well, Grace," he says. She smiles. "No, Dad, I've only begun." He nods. "Your mother would be proud," she replies softly. "I know." When it snows, I hear her laugh. Father and daughter stand still, watching snowflakes fall and melt in the light. Late that night, Grace returns to her new, modest apartment not far from the plaza. She cradles her son, humming softly. The city's lights reflect on his face, making his eyes twinkle like stars. She places a white envelope by the window, a letter received yesterday. Slanted male handwriting. "Forgive me, if you can." Grace touches the paper, folds it, and tucks it into the wooden box with the smart bracelet. "He taught Mommy one last lesson," she whispers to her child. "That forgiveness isn't for him, it's for me." Outside, wind carries snow, light as a breath. She leans against the glass, watching the light's reflection, whispering, "Silence once made me lose myself. Now it's where I hear your heart." The next morning, news reports, the Silent Truth Foundation has expanded to 7 states, funding legal protection and therapy for over 300 women. Grace doesn't speak or pose for photos. Instead, she takes her son to Central Park, sitting under bare trees, watching the sunrise. In the early light, she says softly, "See, sweetheart, light always finds a way through the clouds, even if it's just a sliver." The baby smiles, gripping her finger tightly. And in that moment, Grace knows, life doesn't need a happy ending, just a meaningful one. As dawn spills through the window, Grace carries her son to the balcony. The city below hums with news, meetings, ambitions, but in her arms, all is still. A year has passed since the plaza. The world no longer talks of the slap or the man who fell. Now, they speak of the woman who rose. Some call her an icon, others, the victim who won. But to Grace, she's just human, one who chose truth over silence, courage over hate. She once asked her father, "Do you think I've forgiven?" Charles smiled. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting, daughter. It's when pain no longer shapes your future." She understood that's the legacy she leaves. Not fame, but courage passed forward. Grace looks at her son, a faint smile breaking through the winter breath. "We survived, sweetheart, and surviving is its own kind of victory." The final scene is light piercing the clouds, touching the window, illuminating the child's eyes. A still frame, gentle, bright, and full of hope.